The fifth element is infrastructure. Now, some may want to take a sip of coffee because that's one of the most boring words in the English language. But when it comes to the physical fabric and livability of a place, nothing is more important. Great cities care about their built environment and make it a priority to maintain and enhance their infrastructure and equipment, even in tough times. Yes, I'm talking about potholes and stormwater lines and snow plows with working salt spreaders, but I'm also talking about more. A street network that is truly multimodal, parks and public spaces that are attractive and appealing, flood mitigation for neighborhoods, adequate parking for businesses and shoppers. Unfortunately, these are priorities on which New Rochelle has not done as well as it should. Let me enlist you all in a little thought exercise. Imagine for a moment that you could choose to allocate your own tax bill to various municipal functions in whatever proportions best reflected your priorities. What percentage would you assign to infrastructure and equipment of the kind I mentioned a moment ago? Maybe 20%, 25%, 15%? For that matter, think about your own household spending and how much of it goes to acquiring, maintaining, and improving your home or apartment. Well, whatever number you came up with, I'm sorry to say that the city's most recent budget, within it, current or deferred general fund expenditures on infrastructure and equipment amounted to less than 1% of the total. That kind of underinvestment, a 100-to-1 ratio between operations and capital, made only slightly better by some formula-based grants, is not sustainable. With every passing year, our capacity even to keep up with current needs diminishes, taking with it our overall quality of life and ultimately the property values and business opportunities upon which a vital economy depends. We've got to do better. There's no denying the cupboard is bare at the moment. But we can establish a goal for recalibrating our priorities over time. So as a start, I'm suggesting 5 in 5. That is allocating at least 5% of our general fund to infrastructure and equipment needs, beginning no later than 2016. That's 5 years from now. Thank you. To the extent that we take immediate action, let it be to position ourselves most effectively to secure outside funding. What do I mean? I mean design. Some of you may remember the name Robert Moses, who was both admired and reviled as the builder of modern New York. He left a decidedly mixed legacy, and I wouldn't hold him up as a general model. But no one doubted his organizational genius. When it was time to compete for grants, Moses didn't show up with wishes and dreams. He showed up with blueprints. And guess who got the funding? In fact, we know this from our own experience here in New Rochelle. The North Avenue streetscape, the reconstruction of City Park, these great improvements, funded almost entirely by grants, didn't just fall into our laps. They were made possible by our prior design efforts, not to mention the advocacy of some people in this room. Those prior design efforts which enabled us to compete successfully with all the other projects in our state and region. The city best prepared to use funds is best positioned to get funds. So let's realize that a minimal design investment today on infrastructure that's important to us can yield big returns for implementation tomorrow. And let's not be penny wise and pound foolish when it comes to competing for New Rochelle's future. The last key component of our stronger foundation is a healthy environment. And on this priority, New Rochelle is poised to take a big leap forward. For a full year, a volunteer group of residents and experts, drawing upon public input and in consultation with city staff, produced New Rochelle's first sustainability plan, Greener. Submitted as a draft to the Council last April, Greener contains 6 action areas: energy and climate, resource conservation and waste reduction, ecology, biodiversity, and public health, smart growth and economic prosperity, transportation and mobility, and public participation and awareness. In fact, quite a few of the subjects I've already talked about tonight. Within those 6 areas are 43 initiatives and scores of specific recommendations for short, medium, and long-term progress. Greener addresses subjects as big as renewable energy and as small as supermarket tote bags, with lots in between, from a fuel-efficient municipal fleet to household composting to water quality and open space preservation. It's aimed at saving money in both the public and private sectors and at giving us the best return on our investments. It'll provide residents with information and expanded options so that we can all make the best voluntary choices for ourselves. And it will help New Rochelle take advantage of a shift to green consumer preferences, lifestyles, and job opportunities instead of falling behind. Some initiatives are already underway. We've completed an energy audit of 3 large public buildings and expect soon to move forward on improvements that will yield significant energy savings and cut our annual expenses. Just last week, we launched the Green Supers program to train building superintendents in many of New Rochelle's apartment complexes on the best means of upgrading HVAC systems, air seals, lighting, and much more. Steps that could benefit a big share of our population. On its own, the sustainability plan doesn't change any laws or make any guarantees, and it certainly doesn't spend any money. What it does do is establish a framework for ongoing decision-making, focused on the qualities that make a community desirable, and that, yes, lay a sustainable foundation that future generations can build upon. The Council has discussed Greener for almost a year, and we can act as soon as next Tuesday to support Greener as a statement of city goals. Let's do it, and then get about the exciting work of implementing a community-based vision for a healthy environment and a more vital New Rochelle. Now, please restrain your applause when I say that I'm nearing the end of my speech. Before closing, allow me to make a final, essential point. An honest and candid look at things we can do better shouldn't blind us to the exceptional qualities we already possess. Building a stronger foundation for the future does not require New Rochelle to abandon its past or to leave anyone behind. Everything we need is already here. Water and rail, home and hearth, knowledge and skill, determination and faith. We need only have confidence in ourselves. This may seem like an unexpected message to offer in a time of challenge, when so many sacrifices are required and so many goals have been deferred. But I didn't grow up in this town without learning a thing or two about its character. Just look around this room and think about who and what is represented. Not-for-profits that assist families whose needs are greatest. Service clubs that mobilize volunteers for good works. Firefighters who place their own safety at risk to ensure the safety of others. Police officers who broke their own modern record to give us the lowest crime rate in 40 years. And let's not forget DPW crews, who this season especially were called upon again and again to battle blizzards in the wee hours and deep chill of the night, hardly resting before setting out once more to lift tons of paper at the dawn. We are blessed with schools that offer every young person an opportunity to excel, and a public library that contributes immeasurably to New Rochelle's intellectual vitality. charming neighborhoods that embody history, 3 colleges that are engines of opportunity, a thriving and growing arts community that celebrates creativity of every kind. Most importantly, an engaged and diverse population that draws from myriad traditions to form a remarkable whole. And think about all those times we've risen to the occasion. This is the city that almost 100 years ago opened its doors to thousands of men seeking to enlist in the First World War, bound for Fort Slocum, but stranded on the mainland in a deep winter freeze. For 10 days, they were housed and fed by the people of New Rochelle in an outpouring of patriotism and generosity that was admired throughout the nation. This is the city that 50 years ago was compelled by court order to desegregate its schools, and yet emerged from that wrenching experience to create and sustain a culture of mutual respect and inclusion that is today our defining and most admirable feature. This is the city that 20 years ago, thanks to this gentleman over here, stood on the verge of economic collapse with rubble filling whole empty blocks and then willed itself back to life, attracting a wave of investment unlike any before in its history. And this is the city that just last month, following a terrible fire that claimed the home of Union Baptist Church, gathered in huge numbers from every faith to affirm our commitment to each other. Don't tell me that we can't surmount the challenges of this moment when we've done it before, over and over again. It may not be our place to finish the work I've described. It will be our place to begin it well. That's what foundations are all about. And we won't let each other down. So what is the state of our city? Let me answer, and let me conclude with a brief tale that in many places might be unusual, but is perfectly ordinary here in New Rochelle. In July of 1969, 2 Polish Jewish immigrants whose childhoods in Europe were shaped and shattered by war moved with their 3 boys, and 1 more on the way, from an apartment in Washington Heights to a house on Aberfoyle Road. They were 4 blocks from a high school that looked like a storybook castle. 2 blocks from the cottage of the pamphleteer of the American Revolution. 3 blocks from a woods that teemed with wildlife, and surrounded by neighbors for whom a foreign accent was no barrier to friendship. They were home. Like every other person whose community is selected by birth and not by choice, I can claim no credit for my parents' wisdom. And I will never know what alternative life might have unfolded elsewhere. But there has never been a day on which I haven't been grateful for their decision to settle here. There's never been a day when Katie and I haven't been proud to raise our own children in this place. And I'm certain I speak for most everyone present right now, and for so many thousands of others, when I say we wouldn't trade New Rochelle for any other community in the world. This is what I mean when I report to you tonight that the state of our city is strong. And so, with acknowledgement of the hard choices of the present, faith in the promise of the future, and gratitude for the opportunity we have together to share in each other's lives, let's get to work. Thank you for listening. May God bless you, and may God bless New Rochelle. Thank you.